My sister screamed that I was mentally unstable for hiding my income, then tried to ruin my business with anonymous reviews. When I asked why she made a group chat without me during Dad's stroke, she rolled her eyes and said, "We didn't think you'd understand the medical terms." I just stared at her. That was 9 weeks ago. Last night, she locked herself in her apartment and cried so quietly I almost missed it until Paul came by to collect his things. I'm the middle child of 4 kids. My older brother became a cardiologist and my 2 sisters are both social workers. Me? I work in the elementary cafeteria making $11.75 an hour, serving chicken nuggets and chocolate milk. Growing up, my family never let me forget I was the ugly duckling. Every Christmas, my sister Carol would find me in the kitchen helping Mom. "Linda, you need to think bigger. You can't hide in kitchens forever." My big bro Robert would add, "At least get your degree first," while adjusting his Harvard clip. Like, thanks guys. I actually never thought about that one before. Their houses had security systems and 3-car garages. I rented a 1-bedroom apartment near the railroad tracks and took the bus to work. They drove BMWs with heated seats. When we went out for Mom's birthday, they'd order bottles of wine and I'd stick to water. But here's what none of them knew. For the past 15 years, I'd been running a restaurant consulting business out of my apartment. Started when I was 25 with one Excel spreadsheet and a calculator. Built it up through Instagram posts and word of mouth. Nothing fancy, just me analyzing food costs and creating systems until 4 a.m. My client list now included 12 steakhouses and 3 major hotel chains downtown. I charged between $5,000 and $25,000 per project depending on the workload. Last year alone, I cleared $340,000 after expenses. Never told anyone in my family because, honestly, I liked being underestimated. Then Dad had his stroke. Massive one that left him partially paralyzed. No one told me about it. I found out when Mom mentioned it during our weekly phone call. "Your siblings won't be available. They're trying to figure out what to do about Dad." "Oh, what happened?" I asked calmly. Because I knew losing it meant Mom would stop giving me information. That's when she said it. "My effing siblings made a group chat without me." I immediately hung up and called Robert. Hey, maybe this was an accident, but why wasn't I included in the discussion about Dad?" He sighed like he was explaining something to a child. "Linda, we need to be realistic here. Good facilities cost $8,000 a month. If you can get someone to cover your little hairnet job, maybe you can visit once a month." I told him I'd take care of Dad myself. He actually snorted. "Ha ha ha ha, I know you're not talking about moving him into that shoebox you live in. Linda, Dad needs round-the-clock medical care. This isn't like scooping mashed potatoes onto plastic trays." Carol jumped on the call. "Robert's right. We're talking about adult decisions here, not something you can handle on a cafeteria worker's salary. Proper care." As if I'd just prop Dad up with some tater tots and call it a day. That weekend, I did something that would make them regret their words forever. I drove around looking at houses for sale, found a perfect ranch style with wide hallways and a ground floor master bedroom, just the way Dad likes it. Put in a cash offer, $20,000 over asking. While my siblings argued about who would cover Medicare, I hired contractors to install grab bars and a roll-in shower. Interviewed home health agencies until I found the perfect team. All while my siblings sent each other links to depressing nursing homes an hour away from everyone. Moved Dad in 3 weeks after his discharge. Didn't tell anyone, just showed up at the hospital with the medical transport I'd arranged. Robert was there arguing with the social worker about temporary placement. "It's handled," I said, signing the discharge papers. "Dad's coming home with me." Carol laughed that sharp, bitter laugh she'd perfected in childhood. "Linda, stop. This is embarrassing. You can barely afford your own life." My younger brother James finally spoke up. "Let her try and fail. She'll come begging for help in a week when reality hits." 6 months passed. I took care of Dad while running my business. He'd sit at my kitchen table watching me organizing files, telling stories about his army days. My siblings barely visited. Carol said she was too busy. Robert said he didn't want to get stuck in traffic. James just stopped responding to texts. They kept their group chat going though. Mom would mention their ongoing debates about long-term care facilities, like they were waiting for me to fail. But then something beautiful happened. It came in the form of something big, thick, and black. Carol's preppy little husband saw my name on the speaker board at a restaurant industry conference. In bold black lettering it read, "Linda Mitchell, turning failed restaurants into million-dollar success stories." He took a photo and sent it to the family group chat with 3 question marks. I just laughed and switched my phone off. But when I woke up, I noticed my phone had been bombarded with dozens of texts and missed calls. The first voicemail was angry. The second was threatening. By the 10th, they were practically begging to talk about this rationally. The first message I actually opened was from Carol. "Pathological liar," in all caps. Then another. "How dare you hide this from us while we worried ourselves sick about Dad's care costs." I set my phone aside and focused on making Dad's breakfast. My hand stayed steady as I scrambled his eggs exactly how he liked them, soft with a touch of cream. The phone kept buzzing against the counter, creating a constant vibration that made the salt shaker dance. Dad noticed the noise from his wheelchair. His good hand reached toward the phone, eyebrows raised in question. "Just the family having feelings," I told him, placing his plate on the special tray that attached to his chair. "Nothing that can't wait until after breakfast." The phone rang. Robert's name flashed on the screen. I answered on speaker while adjusting Dad's napkin, knowing he'd want to hear whatever drama was unfolding. "Fraud!" Robert's voice exploded through the speaker. "Identity theft! Corporate deception! I have lawyer friends, Linda. This charade ends now." Dad's eyes widened. His good hand gripped his fork tighter, but I kept my voice level. "I never lied to anyone, Robert. I just never corrected your assumptions about my life. You let us think you were poor. You watched us stress about Dad's care costs while sitting on a fortune. I'll expose you, Linda. I'll tell everyone at Garfield Elementary exactly what kind of person you really are. They deserve to know their cafeteria worker is a con artist." The line went dead. Dad's egg sat untouched, his face showing more alertness than I'd seen in weeks. weeks. A knock at the door interrupted the silence. Mrs. Chen from next door stood on my porch, holding a casserole dish and wearing a concerned expression. "I heard shouting," she said, glancing past me toward Dad. "Everything okay? I brought extra lasagna from last night." Mrs. Chen had been bringing meals twice a week since Dad moved in, refusing payment and always staying to chat with him about their shared love of old war movies. She knew exactly how dedicated I was to his care, often commenting on the medical equipment and modifications I'd installed. "Family drama," I admitted, accepting the dish, "but we're managing." She patted my arm. "Your father is lucky to have you. Not many daughters would do what you do." As she left, my phone showed a new text from Carol. "On my way over. You will explain yourself." I helped Dad finish breakfast, then started preparing him for physical therapy. His therapist would arrive at 8, and I needed him ready. While I gathered his exercise bands, a car door slammed outside, then another. Carol's fist pounded against my front door. "Open up, Linda! We're not leaving until you explain this sick joke." Through the window, I spotted James's car pulling up behind Carol's, all three siblings descending like a storm. I opened the door to find them clustered on my porch. James held his phone up, recording. "For evidence," he announced, "in case we need it for legal proceedings." They pushed past me without invitation, Carol leading the charge into my living room. Their eyes swept over the hospital bed in the corner, the lift system installed in the ceiling, the rows of medical supplies organized on custom shelving. Robert stopped at the bathroom doorway, staring at the roll-in shower and professional-grade grab bars. "This must have cost a fortune," Carol finished, spinning toward the kitchen. Her gaze landed on my desk in the corner, where business cards lay scattered from yesterday's video conference. She snatched one up, reading aloud, "Linda Mitchell, CEO, Mitchell Restaurant Solutions." Her face drained of color. "CEO?" Robert's tactics shifted instantly. "Obviously a scam. You've been defrauding vulnerable restaurant owners, haven't you? Taking advantage of struggling businesses during tough times?" The doorbell rang. Dad's physical therapist had arrived right on schedule. I let Catherine in, watching my siblings step aside as she wheeled her equipment past them. "Morning, Mr. Mitchell," Catherine called cheerfully. "Ready to work those legs today?" While she got Dad positioned for his exercises, I pulled out my laptop. My siblings watched as I navigated to my business banking portal. "7 figures," James whispered, stopping his recording to lean closer. "Carol, do you see the tax implications here? She's been hiding assets while claiming nothing," I interrupted. "I never asked any of you for money. Never complained about being broke. You all just assumed." Carol's phone was already at her ear. "Mom, you need to hear this. Linda's been lying to all of us. She's actually rich. Been hiding money while we've been unaliving ourselves trying to figure out Dad's care." I pulled up our old family group chat on my phone, scrolling through months of messages I'd been excluded from. There it was, their careful calculations of my share of Dad's costs. Based on her hourly wage, Robert had written, "Linda can contribute $73 monthly." "That seems high," Carol had responded. "She has rent to pay on that dump. 50 max," James had agreed. "We can't expect more from someone in her position." I showed them the screen. "This is what you thought I was worth." Well, the family meeting nobody asked for just turned into a surprise episode of Guess Who's Actually Rich. And watching 3 siblings discover their poor sister makes more money than all of them combined is giving me secondhand satisfaction I didn't know I needed. $50 toward Dad's care. Robert grabbed his phone, screenshotting my photo from Garfield Elementary's website. Within seconds, he'd sent it to our extended family group chat with the caption, "Our millionaire sister who's been playing poor." My phone rang. The principal's name appeared on the screen. "Linda, I'm getting calls about some kind of family emergency. Your brother said you needed to be pulled from shift immediately." "There's no emergency," I assured her. "I'll be in for lunch service as usual." "Oh good. You know we can't function without you." "But Linda, is everything okay?" Your sister also called, sounding quite upset. After I hung up, another call came through, this time from my supervisor at the district office. "Linda, I just received a concerning call about financial irregularities. Someone claiming to be your family member said you've been involved in fraud." Carol didn't even try to look ashamed. People deserve to know who they're trusting with their children's food. Catherine continued working with Dad through it all, professionally ignoring the family drama while she guided him through his exercises. Dad's eyes tracked between his children, taking in everything. I closed my laptop. "I need to go see Mom. She deserves to hear the truth from me, not from Carol's hysterical phone calls." "We're not done here," Robert warned, but I was already grabbing my keys, leaving them in my house with Dad and his therapist, trusting Catherine to handle things until I returned. Mom's apartment was 20 minutes away. I found her in tears at her kitchen table, Carol's version of events having done its damage. "How could you?" she asked. "How could you let us worry like this?" I pulled out my phone, accessing 5 years of corporate tax returns, set it in front of her, watched her eyes widen as she processed the numbers. "You paid more in taxes last year than Robert makes in salary," she whispered. "I built this business while everyone thought I was failing," I said. "Started with nothing but determination and the skills everyone mocked me for having." My phone buzzed with texts from 3 different restaurant clients. "Hey, got a weird call about your family situation. Everything okay?" Carol had found my conference speaker bio online. Public information, now being used as ammunition. Another text from Mrs. Chen. "Someone was taking pictures of your house this morning. Thought you should know." Then Dad's nurse. "Your brother tried to question me about your real job during my visit. I told him nothing, but wanted you to be aware." I showed Mom the messages. "This is what they're doing. Trying to destroy what I built because they can't handle being wrong about me." A notification popped up on my phone. A new review on my business's Google page, posted minutes ago from an anonymous account. "Dishonest to own family. If she'll lie to them, what else is she hiding? Cannot be trusted." My biggest client called immediately. "Linda, I'm looking at this review. What's going on?" I explained briefly, professionally, without going into too much detail. He listened, then said, "I'll post our testimonial today. Anyone who saved my restaurants deserves better than this." stress. By the time I got back home, my siblings had left. Catherine was finishing Dad's session, and he looked tired but pleased with his progress. 40% more range of motion than last month, she reported. Whatever you're doing, keep it up. The consistency of care here is making a real difference. After she left, I sat with Dad as he recovered from therapy. My phone continued its assault of notifications. Uncle Pete asking if I needed bail money, former classmates questioning what was happening on social media, more clients reaching out with concern. But Dad's hand found mine, squeezing with his good side. His eyes, clearer than they'd been since the stroke, met mine with understanding. I squeezed back. We're okay, Dad. Let them rage. We know the truth. The next morning brought a new wave of attacks. Carol's Facebook posts about family betrayal and wolves in sheep's clothing had gained traction overnight. Mutual friends were choosing sides, most without knowing the full story. I screenshot everything, the posts calling me mentally unstable and pathological, the comments from people who'd never met me, weighing in on my character, evidence I might need later. At work, serving lunch to 500 elementary school kids, I noticed the whispers among parents volunteering in the cafeteria. Some stared, others avoided eye contact. But Maria, who'd worked beside me for 8 years, stood firm. Anyone who believes that garbage doesn't know you, she said, louder than necessary. 15 years you've been here, never missing a day, treating these kids like your own. The principal stopped by during service. HR wants to meet with you about financial disclosure concerns. I told them it was ridiculous, but I understand, I said, continuing to serve chicken nuggets with a smile. When? Tomorrow at 3. Linda, I want you to know I'm in your corner. Whatever's happening with your family, it doesn't change who you are here. That evening, I installed security cameras around my house. The garbage cans had been moved again, and all the promotional flyers I kept in my car for networking had vanished. Someone was escalating beyond angry texts. Dad watched from his wheelchair as I mounted the cameras, nodding approval. His speech therapy was progressing, and he managed to say, "Smart girl." 3 restaurant owners called that night, offering to write letters to the school board about my integrity. One was the board president's favorite lunch spot. She saved us from bankruptcy in 2018, the owner told me. Restructured our entire operation. I'll make sure they know exactly who Linda Mitchell really is. The irony wasn't lost on me. My siblings' attempts to destroy my reputation were actually revealing how many lives I'd touched through my work. People were stepping forward with stories of how I'd helped them, testimonials I'd been too humble to seek out myself. But the attacks continued. Someone called Dad's doctor claiming to be reviewing his care situation. The bank notified me of attempts to verify my authority over Dad's accounts. Carol reached out to my first client from 2009, fishing for irregularities in past services. Each attack was met with confusion from the people who actually knew me. My clients, my colleagues, my neighbors, they all saw through the smear campaign. But it was exhausting, playing defense while trying to maintain normalcy for Dad. Then came the breakthrough. During a family dinner where Carol was present, Dad spoke his first clear sentence in months. "Linda, good daughter." Carol stormed out without a word. Robert showed up at the elementary school the next morning during my shift. I spotted him through the serving window, standing in the cafeteria entrance wearing his expensive suit, scanning the lunch line like he was conducting a medical examination. The kids noticed the tension immediately. Several stopped chatting to watch this stranger who clearly didn't belong. I continued serving mac and cheese, keeping my movement steady while Robert approached the counter. He leaned over the sneeze guard, his cologne overwhelming the smell of cafeteria food. I could see him calculating how to maximize the humiliation. He demanded I share what he called the wealth I'd stolen from them. His voice carried across the cafeteria, causing teachers to look up from their lunch supervision. I simply shook my head and continued portioning food onto trays. Robert's face reddened as he realized I wouldn't engage in front of the children. The principal appeared at his elbow, professionally escorting him toward the exit. Robert went, but not before announcing loudly that I'd hear from his lawyers about the family assets I'd hidden. Several parents exchanged glances. The damage was done. That afternoon, James's wife Ashley sent me a private text. She had no idea about any of this, she wrote. The message was brief, but seemed genuine. I filed it away, unsure what to make of this crack in the family alliance. My conference organizer called while I was helping Dad with his evening medications. Next month's keynote was still on schedule, but given my family situation, they could move it if needed. I assured them I'd be there. Dad nodded approvingly from his wheelchair, understanding the importance of maintaining professional commitments. I realized something important while reviewing the harassment pattern. My siblings had only contacted my workplace and neighbors, not my actual clients. They'd found my public speaking engagements but hadn't dug deeper into my business relationships. Their attacks were surface level, based on what they could find through Google searches. 3 restaurant owners independently offered to write letters to the school board about my integrity. The owner of Marcello's, the board president's favorite lunch spot, was particularly insistent. He remembered how I'd saved his family business from bankruptcy in 2018, restructuring their entire operation when they were weeks from closing. Maria organized the cafeteria staff without my knowledge. They quietly coordinated to cover my duties whenever I needed to handle family emergencies. The principal noticed this teamwork, commenting on the loyalty I'd inspired among my colleagues. Dad's physical therapist reported his best progress yet during the morning session. Catherine attributed it to the stable home environment and consistent care routine. His range of motion had improved another 15%, exceeding all medical expectations. I documented everything, knowing I might need these records later. I continued serving lunch daily while managing business calls between shifts. My phone stayed on silent in my pocket, but I could feel it vibrating constantly with new messages. Robert showing up at the elementary school in his fancy suit to confront someone serving mac and cheese is like bringing a tuxedo to a food fight, completely missing the point while overdressed for the occasion. The ability to compartmentalize, developed over years of running a business while working full-time, served me well now. Carol confronted confronted me in the Kroger parking lot that evening. I'd just finished grocery shopping for Dad's special diet when she appeared beside my car. I calmly pulled out my phone and started recording, making it obvious I was documenting the interaction. She ranted about betrayal and deception while I loaded groceries into my trunk. Then something unexpected happened. Her voice cracked, and she admitted she'd always been jealous. The admission seemed to surprise her as much as me. She quickly covered it with more anger, but the truth had slipped out. The local business journal editor called the next morning. They'd heard about my story through the restaurant association and wanted to feature it in their success stories column. I agreed to the interview, seeing an opportunity to control the narrative. Ashley visited that afternoon while James was at work. She appeared at my door looking uncomfortable but determined. She apologized for James's behavior, explaining she'd been kept in the dark about the family dynamics. We sat in my kitchen while Dad napped, and she shared her perspective on the situation. Mom finally saw the family group chat history when I showed her my phone. She scrolled through months of messages, her face growing paler with each screen. They'd allocated my contributions based on minimum wage. They'd discussed my limitations and realistic expectations for someone in my position. They'd even said I wouldn't understand the medical terms involved in Dad's care. Her hands shook as she handed back the phone. The evidence of how they'd systematically excluded and diminished me was undeniable. She'd been included in some of these conversations, though she claimed not to have paid attention to the details. My clients organized an appreciation dinner without telling me. I arrived at what I thought was a routine consultation to find 20 restaurant owners gathered to show their support. They'd each prepared testimonials about how my work had impacted their businesses. The gesture overwhelmed me more than any of my siblings' attacks. Robert saw my car at the upscale restaurant while driving past. He stormed in, pushing past the hostess to confront me during the client dinner. The room fell silent as he accused me of flaunting my wealth while our family struggled. My clients watched in stunned silence as he revealed more about himself than about me. The owner of the restaurant personally escorted Robert out. Several clients approached me afterward, sharing their own stories of family members who'd resented their success. The incident actually strengthened our professional relationships. 3 families from Garfield Elementary reached out with support. They'd heard the truth from restaurant owners in our community. One parent told me their business existed because of my consultation 3 years ago. Their children attended the school where I served lunch, and they wanted me to know they stood behind me. Carol's husband, Paul, sent an unexpected text. He apologized for the photo that started everything. He hadn't known it would cause this chaos. The message was brief and seemed carefully worded, like he was trying to distance himself from the situation. Mom made a discovery that changed her perspective entirely. While going through old cards, she found ones Dad had written to me over the years. "Proud of my entrepreneur," one said, dated 5 years ago when my siblings were mocking my cafeteria job. "My daughter, the business owner," said another. Dad had known all along and kept my secret. The security service I hired started the next week. I'd found Robert parked outside my house 3 times, just sitting in his car, checking on Dad. While technically legal, the behavior was unsettling. The security company installed additional cameras and began random patrols. The entire cafeteria staff signed a letter supporting me to the school board. Maria had organized it quietly, gathering signatures from everyone who'd worked with me over the years. Even retired staff members had contributed testimonials about my character and work ethic. Carol's Facebook rants became increasingly unhinged. Her posts grew longer and more rambling, filled with contradictions and accusations that made little sense. Mutual friends began distancing themselves, privately messaging me with apologies for initially believing her version. Dad achieved a milestone during therapy. When the social worker visited for a routine check, he managed to write "Linda stays" on the communication board. His handwriting was shaky but clear. The social worker was impressed by the quality of care, noting the professional equipment and detailed care logs I maintained. The local business journal published their article. The headline read, "Elementary Worker Builds Consulting Empire While Serving Students." The piece highlighted my dual career and commitment to both roles. My phone exploded with congratulations from clients and colleagues who hadn't known about my cafeteria job. I pulled out my employee handbook from the school district. 15 years of perfect attendance stared back at me from the pages. Not a single sick day taken, despite building a business that required late nights and early mornings. The record spoke to dedication my siblings couldn't understand. Mom's lease expired the following month. She asked to move in with me and Dad, admitting she'd chosen the wrong team. The request came with tears and apologies. I agreed, seeing an opportunity to rebuild our relationship while providing Dad with additional family support. The restaurant association board member revealed something disturbing. Carol had called trying to file a formal complaint against my business. She'd claimed I was operating without proper licenses and defrauding clients. The board member had dismissed it immediately, knowing my reputation, but wanted me aware of the attempt. A scheduling conflict forced a difficult choice. Dad's important neurological appointment coincided with my conference keynote. The decision was immediate and clear. I chose Dad, asking the conference organizers to stream my presentation instead. My message about priorities resonated with the virtual audience. "Success means nothing without family who truly supports you," I explained. The stream had more viewers than the in-person event would have attracted. Several new clients reached out afterward, drawn to my authentic approach to work-life balance. Robert's medical practice partners approached him about the family situation. His behavior had become erratic at work, affecting patient care. He'd been distracted, taking personal calls during consultations and leaving early to drive by my house. The senior partners expressed concern about his professional reputation. The school board cleared me of any wrongdoing after their investigation. The HR meeting I dreaded turned into a formality. The board president himself attended, having heard about my integrity from multiple restaurant owners. They apologized for the inconvenience and commended my service to the district. James returned my spare key in person. He appeared at my door one evening, shuffling his feet like a scolding scolded child. He mumbled an apology, barely making eye contact. Ashley had made him come, he admitted. The interaction was awkward, but represented progress. Carol sent what seemed like a final desperate text. I owed them for years of supporting me, she claimed. The message was long and rambling, listing every perceived slight and sacrifice she'd made. The delusion was complete. She'd rewritten history to cast herself as my benefactor. I responded with receipts. Every dinner I'd paid for while they thought I was broke. Every birthday gift I'd given despite my supposed poverty. Every time I'd covered the bill while they complained about my life choices. The evidence was overwhelming and indisputable. The siblings retreated for 2 weeks. The sudden silence felt ominous rather than peaceful. No texts, no calls, no surprise visits. Even their social media went quiet. I knew better than to think it was over. Dad's old friends started visiting. His former army buddies, poker group, and church friends had heard about his improvement. His former pastor told me they'd always known I'd succeed. They'd watched me work multiple jobs in high school, seen my determination even as a teenager. 3 new clients contacted me after hearing my story through professional networks. One was particularly interesting, a country club restaurant where Robert was a member. They needed a complete operational overhaul and specifically requested my services after hearing about my business approach. I presented at the conference about building a business while working class. The audience gave a standing ovation. My story of serving elementary students by day and consulting for restaurants by night resonated with entrepreneurs who'd faced similar family skepticism. Returning home from the conference, I found my siblings' cars in the driveway. Through the window, I could see them surrounding Mom in my living room. Their body language was aggressive, leaning in, gesturing emphatically. They were pressuring her to force the sale of Dad's assets for his care. I walked through my front door to find my siblings in full manipulation mode. Mom sat on my couch, surrounded by Robert, Carol, and James, all leaning in with paperwork spread across the coffee table. Dad watched from his wheelchair near the window, his jaw tight with frustration. Robert held up a document as I entered, legal papers about conservatorship. My stomach dropped, but I kept my expression neutral while setting down my conference materials. The next morning, I received a text from a lawyer friend who'd overheard Robert discussing Dad's conservatorship at the country club. The warning gave me a 2-day head start. Security cameras and random patrols because Robert keeps parking outside like some kind of medical degree stalker. That's taking house calls to a whole new creepy level that nobody ordered. I immediately drove to the courthouse, filing for official caregiving documentation with Dad's enthusiastic consent. His hand was steady as he signed, his eyes clear with determination. Catherine provided a detailed statement about Dad's care quality during our next therapy session. She documented his progress, the professional equipment, and the consistency of his treatment plan. Her medical assessment carried weight that my siblings couldn't dispute. 3 days later, Carol discovered I'd already filed the paperwork. She cornered me outside the courthouse after checking on their abandoned conservatorship attempt. Her face twisted with rage as she hissed threats about this not being over. A local reporter, there covering a different story, overheard the confrontation and started taking notes. The anonymous harassment began the following morning. A note tucked under my windshield wiper read that some people should stay in their place. The handwriting was deliberately disguised, blocky letters that could have been anyone's. Security footage from my new cameras showed a figure in a hoodie, face obscured, but the timing matched my siblings' alibis perfectly. My elementary school colleagues grew concerned about safety. Maria organized a buddy system for walking to cars after shifts. The principal increased security patrols during lunch service. The kids noticed the tension, but adapted with the resilience children always show. A major client crisis erupted while I was dealing with the harassment. Their point-of-sale system crashed during a busy weekend, threatening thousands in lost revenue. I had to manage the emergency remotely while ensuring Dad's safety, juggling phone calls between security company check-ins. The situation forced a difficult decision. I took a week off from the elementary school to focus on Dad's security and my business obligations. The choice felt like letting my siblings win, but Dad's safety came first. The kids at Garfield responded by creating a massive banner reading, "We miss Ms. Linda," that they hung in the cafeteria. Thanksgiving approached with the weight of family obligation. Mom insisted on hosting dinner at my house, declaring that the family needed to face reality together. No amount of reasoning could change her mind. She'd already informed my siblings, who had no choice but to attend or face her disappointment. Carol arrived 2 hours early, ostensibly to help with cooking, but actually to work on Mom. I heard her in the kitchen, twisting the narrative about my deception while I helped Dad with his morning routine. Mom's responses grew shorter and sharper as Carol's manipulation became more obvious. Robert arrived next, immediately pulling out his phone to scroll through old family group messages. He read them aloud, highlighting every joke about my cafeteria job, every dismissive comment about my potential. The irony seemed lost on him that he was providing evidence of their behavior, not mine. Ashley and James arrived together, but Ashley immediately pulled me aside in the hallway. Her hand rested on her stomach as she revealed her pregnancy. She wanted better for her child than the toxic dynamics our family perpetuated. Her declaration of support felt like a small victory in the larger war. The dinner table became a battlefield of passive aggression and barely contained resentment. I focused on serving Dad, making sure he could eat comfortably despite the tension. My siblings picked at their food, the weight of unspoken accusations heavy in the air. Then I did something unexpected. I offered to help with their debts. The words hung in the air like a challenge. Robert's face turned purple as he exploded about not needing pity money. His outburst revealed what I'd suspected. He was over-leveraged, drowning in student loans despite his cardiologist's salary. Carol broke next. Tears streaming down her face, she admitted Paul had left her. He'd watched her Facebook rants, seen her obsessive behavior, and decided he wanted no part of it. The divorce papers had been filed the previous week. Her perfect social media life had crumbled. Dad chose that moment to make his most dramatic recovery statement yet. He wheeled himself to the dining room doorway and spoke clearly. All his children were successful. The words hit differently than intended. Success, he implied, wasn't just about money. James offered the first genuine apology of the evening. He admitted following our older siblings' lead, never questioning their assumptions about me. His confession lacked Robert and Carol's dramatics, but felt more honest for its simplicity. I set one condition for moving forward: respect for all types of work. I would keep my cafeteria job because those kids mattered to me. The work had dignity whether my siblings recognized it or not. My business success didn't diminish the value of serving lunch to elementary students. Robert finally cracked, admitting his resentment stemmed from crushing student loans. He'd assumed I lived free of financial pressure while he struggled despite his high salary. The revelation explained years of condescension. He'd been projecting his own financial stress onto me. For the first time in decades, our family had an honest conversation. Not comfortable, not easy, but real. Years of assumptions and resentments laid bare over turkey and stuffing. Mom watched it all unfold with tears in her eyes, finally understanding the dynamics she'd enabled. Mom announced she was staying with me permanently. Her lease was up, and she'd already moved most of her things. She admitted I was the only one who'd visited Dad weekly before his stroke, the only one who'd made time for family when there was nothing to gain. My phone buzzed with a client text during dessert. For once, I silenced it without checking. Family came first, even difficult family working through years of dysfunction. The business would survive a few hours of inattention. 6 months later, life had settled into a new rhythm. I still served lunch at Garfield Elementary before afternoon consultations. The kids had welcomed me back with handmade cards and enthusiastic hugs. Their parents now knew about my business, but it didn't change how they saw me. I was still Ms. Linda, who knew every child's name and favorite meal. Dad walked with a walker at my second conference keynote. His progress had exceeded every medical prediction, his determination inspiring other stroke survivors in attendance. He sat in the front row, beaming as I discussed building success without abandoning your roots. Mom had become an unofficial part of my business, handling scheduling and correspondence from home. Her organizational skills, previously wasted on managing family drama, proved invaluable for keeping my growing client base coordinated. James brought his baby daughter to visit weekly. Ashley had delivered a healthy girl who would grow up seeing all work as valuable. James had started therapy to address his follower mentality, taking responsibility for his choices. Robert acknowledged me at a medical fundraiser, introducing me to colleagues as his successful sister without qualification. The admission cost him, but he managed it. We weren't close, might never be, but the public recognition marked progress. Carol worked through intensive therapy, addressing the jealousy and resentment that had poisoned her perspective. We exchanged brief texts about Dad's care, nothing more. Paul had been the stabilizing force in her life, and without him, she'd had to confront hard truths. The family wasn't perfect. We'd likely never have easy holiday gatherings or casual sibling bonds, but we'd found honesty. The truth I'd revealed had shattered their comfortable assumptions, forcing growth that should have happened years ago. My business continued thriving alongside my cafeteria work. Clients respected my commitment to both roles, seeing it as evidence of integrity rather than limitation. The elementary school had become a selling point. Someone who showed up daily for children could be trusted with their restaurants. Dad's recovery remained the real victory. He'd regained mobility and speech through consistent therapy and stable care. His eyes no longer held the fear from those early post-stroke days. He was home, surrounded by family who'd finally learned to see each other clearly. The respect I'd demanded wasn't just about my work choices. It was about seeing people as they are, not as we assume them to be. My siblings had learned that lesson painfully, publicly, but thoroughly. The cafeteria worker they'd dismissed had been saving restaurants and building an empire they couldn't imagine. Some nights, reviewing contracts while Dad watched TV nearby, I thought about the path that led here. The years of pre-dawn work, the careful balance of 2 careers, the decision to stay quiet while family mocked my choices. Every choice had led to this moment: success on my own terms, family who finally saw me, and the knowledge that respect was earned through action, not assumption. The truth hadn't set us free in some fairy tale ending. Instead, it had forced a reckoning that broke us down before building something more honest. My siblings' attempts to destroy me had only revealed the life I'd built and the people who truly mattered. In the end, that was worth more than their approval had ever been. Hey guys, hope you enjoy the content. Subscribe for more content just like this. Lots of videos coming out every day.